Hello and welcome to Talking Manchester United. I'm Paul Gardner, and joining me today we have Matthew McFadden. Matthew, how are you, my friend?
You know what? I'm actually really good. The Champions League is back. We've just had a win. Not too much to complain about.
The
Back in
Champions
the
League
pot
is
as
back.
well.
Did you just say the Champions League is back?
It is.
And what
Yeah,
do we
I know
care about
United and all
that?
that. I know, but it's finally good to see some decent quality football.
I will just say for those listening, you probably realised that the start of the podcast is slightly different. As some of you may or may not be aware, the Talking Manchester United podcast is no longer associated with the United Stand. Mark and Flex have actually started their own podcast, which is fair enough, and they wanted to put it under the United Stand name, obviously. But that's fine. This podcast remains alive. We're keeping the name Talking Manchester United. It's just not associated to the United Stand anymore. Um, so yeah, if you're listening to this episode probably won't be available on iTunes or most Android apps just yet. Not until the feeds have been verified. They haven't been submitted, but you can catch us right now on Spotify, obviously on YouTube, TuneIn, and Stitcher. We are on those as we speak. So if you're listening to this on YouTube, you can use those apps as well if you want to listen to us on the go. But going forward, hopefully by the next time we record, we should be up and running again on I think it's Apple Podcasts now and all pretty much all Android podcast apps. So with that out of the way, I think we should dive into it then, Matthew. So it's been a few weeks since the last podcast. Obviously, with all that going on with the United Stand, having to have new artwork done for us, which was done by Martin Pert, who was going to be with us tonight, but unfortunately has had to pull out. Um, so big thanks to him, and hopefully he'll be back with us next week. Yeah, so it's been a few weeks. We've had some not well, we've had some bad results, haven't we? To be fair, performances
Yeah,
haven't been
yeah.
great. It's been a bit negative up until obviously the Leicester game. So let's focus mainly on that one. Let's focus mainly on Leicester, since that is the game that's fresh in all of our minds. What were your general thoughts on that game as a whole? 1-0, Rashford penalty.
You know what? With that kind of game, after the last few games that we've had, a couple of draws and a loss, I'd say the most important thing is getting 3 points. Even though the performance, wasn't exactly the best, could have created more chances. Thought a couple of players in particular, like Pereira, Mata, Matic, were particularly poor. I just think overall 3 points is the most important thing for me.
No,
You
I
could
would
sort
agree.
of, nitpick at various things, but I think just getting the win, let's move on to the next game, getting that confidence up.
Yeah, the win and also the clean sheet. I think that's very
That's
important
good.
because we've
Yep.
been leaking goals. Not leaking goals, it's not like we're conceding
Sort of
two, three, or
conceding
four.
unnecessary ones.
Yeah, but it could they are silly goals. We've seen some mix ups between Maguire and Lindelof once or twice, which have raised a few
Yep.
concerns. Um, but yeah, I think the game against Leicester was definitely a step in the right direction. I think at least defensively anyway. I mean, you could argue that Leicester weren't on their game, but we did see Lindelof and Maguire perform pretty strongly together, I thought. And obviously, then
Yep.
Aaron Wan-Bissaka was being Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Ashley Young actually had a good game as well. That was a surprise.
I know he's had about two good games in a row. I'm not going to say good games, but two half decent games in a row. It's going to be the surprise of the season, this boy.
And what do you think of the Lindelof and Maguire partnership at the back? I mean, it's been something we were looking forward to ever since the beginning of the season. It's had its moments. How do you
Yeah.
think they got on against Leicester? There was one scare for me. I don't know if you picked up on that as well.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Where both of them could have potentially been at fault for that. But yeah, for me, I think as a partnership, they seem to work okay. But as individual defenders, like I get pelters on Twitter every time I say this, but I just don't think Lindelof is that good. Defender, he looks so nervous on the ball. Now, I'm not sure if that's maybe just entirely down to confidence or down to his ability or kind of lack thereof when it comes to that kind of situation. But you know what? He's improved since he joined. But for me, I'd probably want to see Axel Tuanzebe come in. But at the moment, it's not the worst defensive partnership in the world. I think Harry Maguire is probably one of the best centre backs in the league. And what really impresses me about him is the fact that even though he's a new signing, he seems to be a leader. All his comments, post game, he seems to be that kind of leading defender that we really need, and hopefully that will actually give Lindelof the confidence. Because I think Lindelof, when he's confident, is a good defender, but when he's not confident, he's so shaky. But you know what? Against I was going to say Southampton, not Southampton, Leicester. I actually thought they were a pretty decent partnership as well as a whole back four in general.
Do you know what? I would agree with you to an extent. Ari Lindelof and him not being as good as what many maybe make him out to
Yeah,
be,
I think some
because
people think Lindelof is what Maguire is.
well, when you think about it, before Maguire came in, Lindelof was our best defender by a long shot.
Yep. Sure.
Obviously Maguire's come in, he is better than Lindelof. There's no arguments there at all.
Oh, no doubt.
All round, with the ball aerially, he's stronger. He is an all round better defender than Lindelof, and I think it's now making Lindelof look not as quite as good as we all thought he was. So I think it's a very fair comment for you to say that. I still think he should be the first choice with Maguire, and I do think that he can improve, and I think that having Maguire next to him will be good for him. And so I think one of Lindelof's weaknesses is his ability in the air.
Oh yeah.
As we've seen earlier in the season with that horror show of the ball going straight over his head, and well, you know what happened then.
Yep.
And that one moment that we had against Leicester I think it was like in the 6th or 7th minute of the game when the ball was coming over the top, and I don't know what Maguire was thinking, but instead of going up for the header, he just sort of decided to do what some defenders do, and that sort of step in to the attacker. Like he sort of stepped in and under Vardy to try and put Vardy off the header, when I think he
Yeah.
would have been better going up and trying to win the header, because it's okay doing that, because Chris Smalling was renowned for doing that. But Chris Smalling
Mm-hmm.
had the smarts up in his head to know when it was safe to do that. So if there was only one attacker and it was from a goal kick, you could do that time and time again, because the ball's just going to bounce behind you and the keeper's going to pick it up. But in that situation, it wasn't like that. It wasn't a goal kick. It was, it was not even a counter attack. They still had players in our half. And of course, Maguire's done that, and then he's exposed Lindelof at that point. He shouldn't really have put Lindelof in that position. And from that moment on, I thought, oh God, here we go. But no, fair play to them. After that, they were absolutely fine for the rest of the game.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So let's move forward then from the defence. Midfield, obviously, we've seen a bit of a shake-up. We've seen Matic come in. McTominay played. Obviously, no Pogba. Again, not really a lot of creativity coming from the midfield. Not
Yeah.
really a lot going on up front. The first 10 minutes I thought was pretty good. There were some good movements, some quick passing. We did actually create a few chances in that first 10 minutes, but then it just sort of started to fizzle out. I mean, what do you think happened there?
I think Ole was, I don't want to use the word scared, but a little bit timid in regards to, Leicester's creativity going forward. Like, I think he used a 4-3-3 formation, but most of the players are very much central. Like, I think he started James Maddison out wide, and then obviously in the second half they moved him more centrally. But starting someone a natural number 10 out wide means that you're probably going to play a little bit closer to the middle of the pitch. I think what he wanted to do was have Matic and McTominay to provide a little bit more physicality. Now it didn't really work, and I think Matic for me is just done. You know, in any sort of big games or games against top half opposition or above, I just wouldn't play Matic. I wouldn't include him in the squad. I don't want to see him be a potential option in the second half. But if you're against a team like, for example, Astana, I wouldn't mind starting him. But Matic in that game just didn't do much. Like, he didn't do a great deal wrong, but he just didn't really do anything. And I think Ole actually kind of gave him this chance to say, look, we've seen some of the stuff that you've been saying. That, quote that seemed to have gone on social media recently about him saying it's all on the manager if we don't win a league title or something like that. Wonder if he had said the same thing about his best friend Josie. But that's a different story. But, saying, coming out with, liking some kind of Instagram post, which all the players seem to do now. I think Ole kind of said to him, you know what, this is your chance. And he just didn't really take it. But I thought McTominay was much different to Matic. I think what we've seen with McTominay this season is either the sort of so-called McMail, where he doesn't really do much. He's a little bit anonymous. Or you see like McTominay, where he's doing absolutely everything in the midfield. And we definitely saw the latter against Leicester when, in the last couple of games, we've just not really seen a great deal from him. And we're sort of wondering, right, is this, really good preseason form just a good little blip, or is it going to be something that could lead into a more permanent thing? And I think that's given quite a lot of fans a little bit of a confidence boost in regards to McTominay. But yeah, the midfield I just don't think really worked in the first half. But as soon as I think Matic came off, didn't he? Because I'm trying to remember the subs.
He did. I think he came off, and I want to
He
say
came off the side.
Gomez
That's
came
it.
on. No, not Gomez. Chong.
Oh, it was Chong that came on. I
Yeah,
think it was Chong and Fred who came on at the same time.
that's right.
But
Yeah,
yeah, taking Matic off and having a bit more of an energetic midfielder, even though I don't rate him at all, and Fred, it just kind of helped McTominay a little bit more.
yeah.
So I think that partnership is definitely a lot more productive than having Matic in there because there's just no pace in that midfield at all.
No, I would agree. We'll talk more about McTominay in a moment. I just want to go over to Twitter quickly because we did put a tweet out after the Leicester game, so I'm just going to find that now. It did have some replies, so it's only fair of me to read a few of them out. So the tweet was a much needed 3 points and clean sheet, but how would you describe United's overall performance? Same old, a step in the right direction? Give us your thoughts below. And so yeah, we've had a few replies to that, so I'm just going to read a few of them out. I won't read all of them, otherwise I'll be here all day. So Rob Allen, our defence held. Leicester had an off day. McTominay showed he is stepping up this year, with Mata and Matic heading the other direction. More experienced managers would have used more tactical trickery to overcome our opponent. Uncertain season ahead. Mike at Mikey11 Williams. Mata too slow. Pereira in 10 was far more dynamic going forward and put operation under a lot more opposition. I think he's meant to say there. Put the opposition under a lot more pressure, and Fred looked a lot more solid on the ball. And then one more, Andy Taylor, a very slow build-up play at times, especially with Mata and Matic. So a common theme there, Mata and Matic clearly not impressing everybody. I mean, there's no arguments that Mata is not the same player he was 5-6 years ago. That's obvious, but I still think he was okay against Leicester. I don't think he did much wrong. One thing I noticed about Mata is that he gets around that final third, and he's always there to provide an option. And one of the things that we didn't have especially when Mata wasn't starting the games. We have it more now with Ollie, but before Ollie under Mourinho, we didn't have players that would move around and give options. We would find that it was a combination of that and the fact that Smalling and Jones just couldn't pass the ball. But even still, when the midfielders were coming back to pick up the ball or whoever, there was no one in front of them making moves to create opportunities. With Mata, you get that all the time, and he proves that every time he plays, and did exactly the same against Leicester, especially in that first 10 minutes when the whole team was playing well and moving the ball quickly. Mata was a key part of that. That's why United and Ollie have kept him on and given him a new contract, because he offers that. I'm not saying he should be starting every game, but I think he does get a lot of unfair criticism sometimes. I don't know what your thoughts on Mata are. About to call you McTominay then, Matthew. I mean, I know a lot of people really do think that he's past it and he should go. I've got no problem with that. It's probably correct, but I just think he's got more to offer than what people realise.
See, I'm very mixed when it comes to Mata. I think it all depends on what kind of role he plays because we've seen the last couple of years he's played out wide, particularly on the right hand side, and he's almost useless in that position because he's just not what you need from a right winger. But since we started playing that 4-2-3-1, he's been, he could be a little bit more useful to the team. I think that's probably why why the club in general gave him a new contract because Ole thought, you know what, we're going to use this particular style going forward. And Mata can be a decent sort of tutor, if you like, to Angel Gomez as well. Well, he gets himself some first team games this season, so I think it's to help with the kind of transition phase from Mata, slowly phasing out the team to Angel Gomez coming in. So as long as Mata's performing okay, I don't really have too much of an issue. But there's certain games and a certain tactical approaches in which Mata just doesn't work whatsoever. But against Leicester, I thought it wasn't his best game, but he definitely wasn't quite as bad as some people made him out to be.
Yeah, I think that's fair comments. Well, let's move on to Scott McTominay then.
Yep.
Let's go to the tweet first of all. So I did put a tweet out regarding Scott McTominay not too long after the game. So we'll just find that quickly because I think that he could be a key player. So yeah, tweet went out on the 16th, so yesterday. Just a reminder that the Talking Manchester United podcast returns tomorrow night. One of the topics will be on how Scott McTominay could be a very important player for United this season. Could he be the Herrera replacement, or is that a ridiculous notion? Give us your thoughts. So I'll just read out some of the replies and then I'll explain the rationale behind that tweet. So Rob Allen again, the best squads are built on a balance of work rate and quality. McTominay is clearly working hard and is getting his rewards for it. I like him for that reason. The only problem in my mind is that he is jack of all trades, master of none, which might stop him reaching the top. And then spliff politics. You lot need to do some fan phone-ins. It was not an impossibility. We're now doing this on Discord, so if it gets to a point where we get enough people in, then maybe we will. No, I think the lad is getting better and certainly should be playing ahead of Matic. I'd like to see Pogba, Fred, and McTominay as our three in midfield. Interesting. So yeah, with regards to McTominay, then Matthew, I mean, my thoughts when I put that tweet out. You think back to last season when he played quite a lot of games. He was hit and miss for the majority of that season. Then he had one or two games where it was absolutely phenomenal. We were like, Jesus Christ, where's this come from? And then pre-season, throughout the whole of pre-season, he was fantastic. Let's be honest, he was very, very good. But then at the beginning of this season, the first four games, he was absent. It was like, okay, maybe that was just a flash in the pan. But then all of a sudden he's popped back up again against Leicester. And it just led me to think the sort of player that he is, that box-to-box midfielder. He showed his defensive abilities against Leicester, getting back and making some blocks. It just made me think to myself, with the midfield being as weak as it is at the moment, with a lack of options, especially defensive options, he effectively could end up being that Herrera replacement that we so desperately wanted. We still should probably have got, but I think he could step into that position if he can continue this improvement that he's showing. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I'd say, I'm pretty sure I can speak for a lot of United fans when I say that last sentence from Rob Allen pretty much sums him up, and that he's a jack of all trades but master of none. But I do think he
That,
can
that,
be
that
that
is a
Herrera
that is a fair
replacement.
comment, but let's not forget he is still young. He can still develop. He can
That's
become
true.
a master of
That's
one.
true. I think he's still 22 years old, so he is still fairly young in the grand scheme of things. And as long as he's getting more game time, then he's obviously going to progress. But yeah, in terms of a Herrera replacement, I think
But
I'd
also,
rather.
sorry to jump in. You
Yeah,
got to
go on.
think. For me as well, Herrera was a bit like that. He was a jack of all trades but master of none. I mean, he wasn't the.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Same sort of player.
Yep. Yeah, Herrera. Like I didn't rate Herrera too much, but in those big games, you could just tell that he has that mentality that sits it down to the ground. And we've seen that with McTominay. A lot of his better performances have actually come in much bigger games where we've got those clutch results like PSG, for example. He absolutely dominated them. Him and Fred in the midfield, and that night in Paris was almost flawless. Same goes for Barcelona in the first leg. Against Liverpool, he tends to do well. And, even though across the whole game he wasn't amazing, I think it was the second half in particular against Chelsea that he really, really did well in the midfield. Kind of solidified himself on the game. But yeah, there just seems to be that issue where he doesn't really do much in quite a few of the games. But like you said, he's still young. He's still a fairly young player. He's only 22, and with more game time, he's going to grow more. But yeah, for me, McTominay, I think I would have rather a signing as a Herrera replacement. But you know what? We've kind of been forced into this situation by the lack of investment and lack of number of signings by the board. So got to make do in some regards. And I think McTominay can kind of be that at the moment, the sort of B-Tech Darren Fletcher, and that he really performs in the bigger games. And that's just that kind of quality is completely invaluable to the team.
Yeah, I do like the Darren Fletcher comparison. I do also
Yeah.
agree with you. I do think we should have brought in a replacement for Herrera.
Oh, yeah.
But I think obviously we didn't. The transfer window is now closed. It has been for a while. The fact of the matter is we didn't get one. And I think that McTominay could prove to be a very important player for us this season at least. Now, before we go any further, I would just like to say that Andrew is with us. I don't know if you can hear us, Andrew.
I can. I was always here.
Oh, look at that. This is why I love Discord. You can just pop in at any time you like.
I managed to get back into the hotel about 2 hours earlier than I thought it was going to. So, yay.
Look at that. We love an unexpected surprise. One of
You'll
our
have to
regular podcasters who wasn't going to be able to make it today is here. So brilliant. Andrew, how are you, my friend?
I'm in Texas. It's hot. It's sweaty. And besides that, you know what? I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling pretty optimistic right now.
You sound it. I can hear that optimism. It's infectious. I love it. Andrew, I don't know how long you've been sat there. I don't know what you've heard. What have you heard?
I just heard you guys' conversations about Scott McTominay.
Well, let's get your thoughts on that then. So I was just saying that I put a tweet out the other day saying that McTominay, this was after the result and after his performance against Leicester, basically saying that he could be a very important player for us this season, that he could be the Herrera replacement. When you consider towards the back end of last season, for all of last season, you could argue that he was sort of hit and miss, but he had some great performances. Over pre-season, he was absolutely fantastic. He's had a very slow start to this season, but Leicester was a brilliant game. What are your thoughts? Can he be that player for us that we need?
That's a hard question to answer. By the way, I'm getting an echo right now.
Yes, so I only just started, so I don't know where that's coming from.
I think it's coming from Matthew. There we go. It's gone. So
can you hear
Scott
me?
McTominay. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Could you hear me just a moment ago when I was talking?
Yes, I could.
Oh, yeah. Gotcha, yeah.
Huh. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Well, that's not good. Because I've just muted the microphone whilst I was saying that, and of course I've been vaping with the microphone muted, and if you can hear it, then I'm sure everyone's going to be able to hear it. So that's a bit annoying. I better stop doing that then.
Yeah, no more vaping. It's bad for you.
Yes, so I do apologise to everybody. This is annoying. Why is it not muted? Like now, I've pressed the button to mute. The microphone symbol has gone red. You should not be hearing me right now.
I can hear everything you're saying.
Damn. How about you, Matthew? Can you hear me?
Yeah, everything.
Wow. There we go then. Yeah, how bizarre. I wonder why. Oh, wait. Hang on. I think I might know what's happened here. If I unplug.
Now I can't hear anything.
Yeah, now you right. Okay, I've figured out. This is the missus. This is bloody playing around the computer all the time. Right, let's just crack on. I'm not going to vape anymore. Let's continue. So carry on.
Now.
McTominay.
I don't hear anything.
What? You can't hear me?
See,
so
I can
I can hear you.
See the green circle, but I couldn't hear anything.
Right, so you can hear me now, yeah?
Yes.
Perfectly.
Right, okay. Yeah, it's the missus. She's been on the computer. She's been switching the microphones around. Typical woman. But yeah, let's crack on. Let's crack on. McTominay, Andrew.
This is going to be a fun part of the podcast.
Welcome back to the podcast.
Yeah.
Well, we always have to work out kinks in the first one, so apologies, ladies and gentlemen. But,
yes.
So, I'm trying to be optimistic on Scott because ultimately we don't have a choice in what's going on. The only other option we have would be to play Fred or Andres Pereira or Nemanja Matic in the midfield alongside Paul Pogba, because we all know that Paul Pogba is not going to get dropped as long as he's healthy. And if I had to choose anybody to be paired along with him right now, it would be Scott. Scott's young. He's got energy. It seems like he's learning the game. But what I will say is that I am not sold on him being a top-level player yet, or being a Manchester United starter yet. I think that's the best way to put it. I think that he could be important down the line as being somebody that would be a fantastic bench option. And I think that that ceiling is being a good bench option, somebody that can step in and be somebody that can, come in and help out in the midfield when needed. But from what I've seen from him, and his performance against Leicester was amazing. He was the man of the match, easily the man of the match. But it's not like he was like absolutely, taking the game by the scruff of the neck and completely taking charge of it. Not like a something Ronaldo would do or Rooney would do or anything like that. But he is still young. He's still got time. He can learn. He can become better. And for that, I'm willing to give him all the time in the world because I think that he's a very likable guy. He seems like he cares about the club and what's going on. And you know what? For that, especially for this season where I have zero expectations, I've got all the time in the world for that type of guy.
Brilliant. Whilst you were saying that, I fixed my microphone problem.
Nice.
And I even tested it because I thought I'm going to be rude and I'm going to talk over Andrew. And if he hears me, then I know I've not fixed my problem. But you didn't hear me, so obviously that's now sorted. So I'm just going to say apologies to everybody. I feel like an idiot. It's the first podcast back. I didn't think I'd need to sort out my microphone setup because as far as I was concerned, it would have been the same as from when we left off last time. But apparently not. Other people have used the computer and fiddled around with it. So going forward, yeah, it should be fine. Well, let's speaking of going forward, let's move on. David De Gea. Did that promotion video not just give you chills?
Yeah, it did.
Andrew, you sound less convinced.
No, it's just the promotional video thing is it kind of, in a sense, it kind of felt like one of those like new signing type of videos. But honestly, I don't care. I love the guy. I love David De Gea, but I ultimately will say this: I don't think that he finishes out his contract with Manchester United.
Maybe not. But the way I look at it is, it's an important deal for Manchester United. When you think, forget the amount of money that we're going to be paying him. He has been an absolute phenomena for Man United over the last 6 years. He has basically kept us relevant. You could argue.
Yes.
That's a bit extreme. Man United are always going to be relevant. Oh, I'm getting feedback.
Matthew, it's you again, you bastard.
It's always me.
Yeah, he's carried us through the last 6 seasons. Like I said, United will always be relevant, but you know what I'm trying to say. He's carried us through the last 6 years. He's been absolutely phenomenal. He is one of the best goalkeepers in the world. He hasn't been great as of late, but we can't really pick on him for that. No one's been great as of late. If he can pick up his form again for the rest of this season, absolutely fantastic. But I think the fact that we've been able to keep hold of a player of that caliber, and he's obviously buying into what Ollie wants to do. Like you say, Andrew, he may well leave next season. I don't think he will. I think he loves United. I think he loves being at Old Trafford, and I think he will. I think he is here for the long term. I think that's an important signing. It's a statement made to other potential United players of the future that we do have big players. We can keep big players. They want to be a part of this. So yeah, it's an attraction to have. When you've got David De Gea in your team. If we can, well, I think Pogba's probably going to be gone, but we can bring other young stars into the team to add to De Gea and add to what we've done this summer. I think it's an important signing, is basically what I'm saying.
Oh, it's absolutely an important signing, but more what I was thinking, it isn't the fact that I think that, David's going to want to leave. I think that it's going to be Dean Henderson that's going to be the guy that's going to unseat him because he's going to perform. Because, Dean just signed a new contract. He's going out on loan, and I think that he's going to continue to go out on loan for the next, year or two. But I think that, United will look at the fact that, they can, A, save a little bit of money, and B, be able to get somebody of equal ilk in terms of their talent for less money and be able to put that into other positions. And I think you'll have a hard time saying that, now obviously I love David De Gea, and if we wind up selling Dean Henderson because, we believe that, De Gea is the guy we're going to keep around until he's, in his late 30s, then I don't care. If Dave can continue to be Dave, be the guy that he's been for the last 6 years, I keep him forever. Like, keep him till he's in his 50s. I don't care. But I do have my questions about, will Dave continue to be Dave? Because so far, I would say this season he's had a bit of a mixed review. If you're being honest with yourself.
Yep, I would say so. But yeah, I mean, I think it depends on, with regards to Dean Henderson, we know he's a good goalkeeper. We know he gets rave reviews when he's out on loan. But you can't put him in the same category as David De Gea at the moment. I know that's not what you're saying, but I'm just saying at the moment you can't do that. And I think that David De Gea, if he can pick up the form that we know he can pick up, and he can take that through the rest of this season and into the next couple of seasons, there's absolutely no way that Dean Henderson will unseat him. That's my thoughts on that. I mean, Matthew, what are yours?
I pretty much agree, really. I think tying David De Gea to a new contract's absolutely essential. I just don't get why they've kind of left it a bit too late, though.
Because it's Man United. It's what we do.
Yeah, so they leave absolutely everything to the last minute. It's just another case of, it's the same kind of thing. But I'd said this on Twitter, and I think David De Gea is definitely someone who genuinely loves the club. Because if he wanted, all the money and an easy challenge, he'd be in Paris right now. 100%. They were in need of a keeper in the summer after selling Buffon back to Juventus. And if he wanted to go back home to Spain, he probably would have left by now. So I think he genuinely absolutely loves it here. And look, 2019 has not really been the best year for him. He's definitely not been out here in 2019.
Do you think, I'll put this out to both of you, and I might just have to unmute Andrew again. Yep. So Andrew's now back with us.
I'm sorry about that.
No, that's okay.
I'm on my phone, and for some reason, if your phone turns off, then the volume turns off. So whatever, no big deal.
Yeah, as I was just saying, I think I was going to say to you, Matthew, just as I interrupted you then, do you think that the Juan Mata contract extension has any effect on David De Gea's decision to stay?
I'd say it helped it. And I think that it is definitely a motivation as to why United extended his contract. And you know what? If it works, then power to them. I think it's essential that we keep our best goalkeeper, the guy who has almost single-handedly kept us in top 4 races season after season. And, to just sell him after one patch a year, I think would be an absolute betrayal to him. So I'm absolutely overjoyed that he's signing a new contract. And I think the money and the wages that he's on could not care less whatsoever.
No, I mean, let's look at it this way. I've seen a few tweets as a reaction to the David De Gea news, saying, "Oh, here we go again, another big money deal for a player in decline and all this, setting a bad example." And I'm thinking to myself, well, hang on a minute, this guy's been with us for 6, 7, 8 years, and he's kept us in. I was about to say kept us in the Premier League. That's a bit dramatic, but you know what I mean. He saved us a hell of a lot of points over those seasons. And I think if any player in that squad deserves to be on a high wage, it's David De Gea. And yes, he had an indifferent season last season, but not every player maintains 100% form throughout their whole career every season. Everybody has a dip. And I'm hoping that was David De Gea's dip last season, and that he'll rediscover his finest form and continue like that until he naturally, declines. Let's move forward then to another big money earner in United, a debatably world-class midfielder in Paul Pogba, another player who's been very indifferent in terms of performances since he joined Man United. Has put a lot of poor performances in, has put a lot of absolutely phenomenal performances in. Now, Andrew, I'll come to you first on this one, seeing as you've not long been with us. He will be coming back from injury, we suspect, against West Ham. Obviously, he's not had a very good start to this season. Do you think he jumps straight back in to the first starting 11? Do you think his heart is in it? What are your thoughts? And if he does jump straight back into the 11, where do you play him?
Yes, he does jump straight. I think that the only reason why he wouldn't have been in the 11 at any point was because he was hurt. But, I mean, it's not like it was anything serious. It's not like he was gone for a long time. Like, he's been gone for, a couple months or anything like that. It's just been a couple of weeks. So, I mean, he should be jumping right back in. And that's honestly a difficult question to answer because, we saw last year, when we were doing a bit of a 4-3-3, that he was playing, as kind of the more advanced, midfielder. But I feel like it's still through necessity more than anything got to be that he's going to play in that midfield two with Scott or Fred or whoever else is going to be there, unless we decide to play Scott and Fred together in that midfield two, and then Pogba steps into the 10. And in that situation, I'm all for Paul Pogba stepping into the number 10 role, playing in that spot, being the guy that can move the ball quickly, make some very decisive passes when it comes time. I think it's hard to argue with the fact that Paul Pogba is probably our best passer of the ball. And ultimately, him being in the 10 will also allow him to, start taking some more shots from range. And if we can get even a equal form Paul Pogba in terms of his long shot ability from Juventus, then man, oh man, our team's going to have a hard time stopping him at that 10 position because his passing's already on point. I'm not worried about that. The only thing I worry about is the fact that, that midfield two would be very, very unproven. And I do worry about that. And that's why I think out of necessity, Paul plays in a midfield two and somebody else is playing in the 10.
And Matthew, what about yourself?
Yeah, Andrew kind of sums it up perfectly. Like, you're in a massive predicament when it comes to Paul Pogba and the rest of the midfield, because you can either play in Difa to kind of compromise for the lack of quality as such, with the likes of Matic, Fred, Pereira, McTominay, let's face it, are not really world beaters, but you're kind of in a way sacrificing Paul Pogba's abilities going forward. Or do you play him, in a more natural role, but then you're sacrificing the midfield's, kind of solidity? And really, there's decent arguments on both sides, and I don't really think there's a sort of definitive answer as to that. But for me, I think, against Chelsea in the second half in particular, he was absolutely fantastic as that sort of almost in regards as like a quarterback, where he just sit deep in the midfield, but players would be making runs and he'd be pinging passes left, right, and centre. He saw it perfectly for that Rashford goal. And I think if he can kind of, improve his consistency there, he can be, relatively consistent in that midfield, because that's his biggest issue since coming to United: consistency. Like, he's immensely talented, but he's nowhere near consistent to be considered a genuine world class player. I think that's his biggest issue, no matter what position that he plays in. So for me, like, not Pogba's biggest fan, but if we're going to try and fight for top four, hopefully, we need guys like him to step up.
Yeah, I would agree, and I think ultimately, yes, he will walk back into the starting 11. And I think it would be pretty silly not to include him in it, because again, he's one of our only players in midfield that has the ability to create something out of nothing. We have seen in flashes though that McTominay can be a very good passer of the ball, and we know that Fred, when he's on his game, can also be a creative player. It's why we brought him in, his ability to find a pass. So I think against West Ham, I would like to see Pogba come back into the 11, but playing further up the field, maybe in the number 10 position, and have Fred and McTominay behind him, with obviously both of them having the license to get forward, but obviously having that discipline, because they're both quite mobile. I think they're both 10 times quicker than Pogba, because Pogba, although we know he can be quick, he never shows that when he's in his defensive duties. They leave a lot to be desired. I mean, he's horrific when it comes to his... Once every 5 games, he might make a sprint back to make a tackle, but that's just not enough. And I think, to get the best out of him would be to play him further forward. I think everyone knows that. It's no secret that we get the best out of David De Gea, because I'm reading it on my screen. We get the best out of Paul Pogba. Yeah, imagine David De Gea playing at number 10. We get the best out of Paul Pogba when he's playing further up the pitch. Again, that's obvious. Everyone knows that. So I would like to see Fred and McTominay. Because if you want Fred to start living up to his price tag, you have to give him minutes. You have to give him game time. He's had enough time now, in the early stages of this season, to catch up with his fitness, obviously because he missed a lot of pre-season. He's had enough time now to catch up with all that. More than enough time. So I think now is the time you have to give him more minutes to so he can settle in, get used to playing in that position. And I think that could be a very good midfield three: Fred, McTominay, and Pogba. So that's what I think of that. Let's look forward then to Astana, the Kazakhstani team. We're playing in the Europa League on Thursday night. How much are we looking forward to that, gentlemen?
You know what? I'm actually kind of looking forward to it in terms of the team selection.
Exactly, in terms of the team selection. But on the flip side, are we confident that we're going to see the team selection that we want?
I'd say I'm semi-confident. I don't think we'll quite see a full youth side or a team with loads of youth players like some people are predicting. But then again, I don't see us playing like a full strength side or a lot of the older players. I'd say Greenwood definitely starts, or he has to.
Andrew?
Yeah, I think that yes, we will see at least somewhat of a lineup that we're going to want to see. I think we're going to see Angel Gomez and Taith Chong and Mason Greenwood. I think we're going to see them. I think we'll see Axel Tuanzebe get a start. Probably see Phil Jones get a start. Maybe we'll see somebody else. Maybe we'll see, Maguire get a start or something like that. But ultimately, the only reason why I'm excited is because of the prospect of, it's the Europa League. It's a very much so weaker side, and I think we should be giving our youth a test against grown men. I mean, is the best way to put it. Give our youth a test against grown men, and see how they can do. And I'll say this because I am on the road. I will most likely be working during the match. Judging the only way that I'll be, putting on, the at least the audio for the match is if that lineup comes out and it looks at least somewhat like I want to, but because if it winds up coming out and it's just, an aging veteran squad, why am I really going to want to watch that? There's really not a lot of point because those guys should go out and go beat Astana. They should.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's give us your ideal 11 for the Astana game. I'll come to you after, Matthew, for yours. But Andrew, what's in your on the mic? Who would you like to see in the starting 11 from front to back, from back to front, goalkeeper to striker?
From back to front, I would say it would probably be Sergio Romero in goal because you got to give Dave a rest at some point. And this seems like a good chance to do it. Yep. Left back, I would love to see Brandon Williams get a chance. Go out there and go play. Now, I mean, more than likely, I would say that you would probably see, Ashley Young, just because I don't know if you want to drop Brandon Williams, who hasn't even gotten a sniff into the, first team, let alone, getting a chance in the 11 for a European night. Not that the Europa League's a big thing. But then I would say center back partnership would be Maguire and Axel Tuanzebe. Just because I would like to see what that partnership would look like. Right back, I would say Delo if he's healthy.
He will be out. He will be out.
He will be out. Okay. Well, then I would say it kind of has to be Aaron Wan-Bissaka then, unless we're going to play Brandon Williams on the left and then play Ashley Young on the right, which, I mean, I could see happening. But ultimately, I think that we'll probably see Wan-Bissaka play it right back.
Before you go into midfield, let's break it up a little bit. Matthew, your back four and goalkeeper.
Back four. You know what? I'd almost field like an entire new 11. just so that it means that the French players can get some games, youth players can get some games. So from that, I'd probably say Ashley Young right back, even though he's played recently. I'd even start Phil Jones. That's how confident I am of a win. I start Phil Jones next to Van Davy, and then realistically we see someone like Brandon Williams, or not. Well, hopefully we'd see someone like him, but I think realistically it's probably going to be Marcus Rojo at left back because we've got an absolute abundance of injuries in the full back area. So I think we're kind of forced to play, a more natural centre back.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I think I would go for Romero in goal. Obviously, I think everybody would.
Yep.
I would like to keep. The only change I would make in the defence would be Lindelof out and Twanzebe in. I would like to see a Twanzebe and Maguire partnership to see how that goes. I would keep Aaron Wan-Bissaka, so I don't think he's in any sort of danger of. I'm getting feedback again. Is that you, Matthew?
That's probably me.
Matthew. It's Matthew. It's always Matthew.
It's always Matthew. Yeah. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, I'd keep him at right back, and I'd keep Ashley Young at left back because Ashley Young's not going to stay there. Shaw's going to come back from injury at some point, and then Young is going to be back on the sidelines again. So I don't think we're in any danger of burning out Ashley Young at any point soon. So I think he will start. Also, my attack is going to be very young and very inexperienced. So you've got to have some older heads in the team just to keep things calm. So that's my back four: Romero, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Twanzebe, Maguire, and Young. Back five, should I say? So Andrew, your midfield.
Well, and what I'll say real quick to that, Paul, I think that ultimately you want to give some of these guys like Wan-Bissaka and Maguire the chance to play in a midweek game because they will be part of a team that will be back in the Champions League very soon. So you got to let them get that experience at least to an extent. But I think that the midfield this is going to be the most interesting part of the game tomorrow for me. Because ideally, I would love to see Jimmy Garner. I would love to see. This is the tough one. Is do I want to throw Fred out there or do I want to throw McTominay out there? And I would say just for the experience portion / getting him some more game time and some more minutes, I'll say Fred. And then at the 10 position, I want to see Angel Gomez. I don't think there's any other choice but to play Angel Gomez at the 10. You need to.
Yep, I would agree with that. Matthew?
I'd say Gomez definitely starts for me, assuming we were playing a 4-2-3-1. I'd probably say a midfield. I don't know if I should put Matic in there, even though I said he probably shouldn't start many games, but I think this game, where you don't really need to put in the strongest 11, I'd say maybe start Matic and then someone like Fred next to him, just to give him a bit more game time and a little bit more confidence.
And I think, for me, again, as I was saying earlier, I want to see Fred and McTominay play together in that midfield. So those two, and then number 10, Angel Gomez. That's my midfield. I think that's a pretty good midfield, to be fair. Well, we don't know that for sure yet, but I think when you consider the limited options we have, I think with the kind of game coming up, and I think that's a good one to go for. Front three.
Yeah. Front three, I think it kind of, in a sense, picks itself. I think that Tahith Chong, Mason Greenwood, and then I don't know really who to say is going to be the left or however they decide to play Tahith Chong, whether it be left or right wing. I don't know if it'll be Dan, but as long as those two start, I'll be happy with whoever else they play. I think it's the best way to put it. I think it'll probably be, either Rashford or Dan. Maybe it'll be Dan James to give him the quote unquote the European night style. I think that actually would be interesting to see Dan James. Because if that's the case, it'll be Tahith Chong left, Dan James right, and Mason Greenwood up top.
I think it's written in the stars, isn't it? Daniel James to score in a European night under the floodlights at the Stratford End.
Yeah, that'd be pretty nice, wouldn't it?
Matthew?
I'd go with the exact same front three. Chong, Greenwood, and James.
Yep, same here. James on the left, Chong on the right, Greenwood through the middle. And James and Chong, no doubt, will alternate left and right anyway throughout the game. It's what we've been doing a lot under Ollie, and that's absolutely fine. They can both play on either side. So yeah, I think that would be a pretty good team to have those players in there. But I definitely want to see Garner as part of the squad, maybe on the bench, coming on for either Fred or McTominay later on in the game. Lingard on the bench, he'll definitely get some minutes. So I have no doubt about that. Jones, Rojo will probably be on the bench as well. Rashford, Mata. So we've got experience and still some talent on the bench as well. So I think that would be a fantastic lineup to go with. Now, whether we see anything like that come match day on Thursday evening remains to be seen, but we can remain hopeful. We're pretty much at the end now. Now, I think we did have a couple of tweets for some topic suggestions, and I got a funny feeling that we may have already covered these topics whilst we've been recording tonight. So let's have a look, see what they were. So Rob Allen again, given James's form on the left, is Rashford in good enough form to try and accommodate him on the right, or as a backup striker, or should he stick to the left wing and compete with James for that position? This leaves Pereira, Lingard and Chong for our right wing options and Greenwood as a backup striker. So I don't know what your thoughts on that are, guys. Yeah, I mean, Rashford for the left wing, or do you think Rashford should remain as a striker?
I think Rashford just needs to nail down a position, because for me, he's not a winger and he's not a proper number 9. He's just a forward.
Well, see,
And I think that's what done.
This is where I disagree with you. I think when he burst onto the scene, he was playing as a number 9. That's where all his goals were coming from.
Oh yeah.
Then he's tried to be this. Well, I think he models his game on Ronaldo, and he tries to be this Ronaldo-esque player, which he's just not. He can't dribble past players. He just kicks the ball straight into their feet. He does it now and again. He gets lucky, but he's not consistent enough with that. And I think he's more effective when he's running through the middle. Him and Martial are the two players I think who should be competing for that number 9 role. But I think ultimately Rashford will be used on the wings as soon as Martial's fit again. Hopefully we'll start seeing what we've seen before Martial got injured, and that's the likes of Rashford, Martial and James interchanging. Martial and Rashford interchanging during the game. I think, it's a good point, Rob Allen, but I do think that we probably won't see an out-and-out number 9 or an out-and-out winger. I think when it comes to Marcus Rashford and Martial, they're just going to keep alternating and interchanging, maybe playing off of each other and leaving others to pick up the wings. It's like I suppose, Matthew, in a way you're right. Then there's no one. Rashford doesn't really have a set position.
In terms of what he's good at, I think there's a lot. He's definitely got good qualities as a striker, but there's other areas that, for example, his inconsistent finishing is just so unreliable when you're a front man. But then on the wings, his final ball's pretty poor. His crosses, he just seems to absolutely hoof it into the box with no real intention whatsoever. So I think no matter where you're playing him, he has some really good qualities for that position, but he has some equally really, really detrimental areas that he just needs to improve on.
Yeah. But I do think that Rashford and Martial should be the ones that focus on playing as strikers. But again, because they're such a similar age, it's difficult, isn't it? So you have to accommodate them, and yeah, it's very difficult one to make a decision on. So we'll sit here saying Ollie should do this and do that. We can't. Well, me at least anyway. I can't make up my mind myself what I want. Andrew, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, my argument would be that because you're saying that Martial and Rashford should be the ones competing for that striker spot. I look at Mason Greenwood and say he should be the one.
Yeah,
he's the guy that realistically makes the most sense to be playing at that lead striker role. Slash, just an out and out forward. He could dribble past people. He could shoot. He can hold up the ball. He could do a little bit of everything, and he's 2-footed. He's the definition of 2-footed.
Yeah.
But that would mean that Rashford would be having to move to a wing.
Yeah.
Same with Martial. Martial would have to be moving to a wing in that scenario. which is also why I think that as of right now, just if you're talking about just for this season alone, I would say Marcus and Martial should be the guys that are, at least in the Premier League, are the ones that are being focused on as the lead strikers. But just if the season goes any way that I think that it will, which I think that we're going to make a relatively decent Europa League run, I think Mason Greenwood's going to be getting a lot of game time. And by the end of the season, I think that he's really going to be pushing those guys for time in that striker role, which would mean somebody's got to be dropped. And then we can only hope that Ollie will, hopefully get them to realize that they can be somebody is going to have to be like Ollie in this situation. Somebody's going to have to be that super sub, that guy that can come in and be clinical in those last, 15, 20, 30 minutes, half a game, whatever it is, whenever they're needed. And hopefully Ollie can preach that to the guys. But ultimately, I don't know what to do with Rashford, because he's just like you guys have said, he's a bit of everything, but he's not anything.
So
if that makes any sense.
Like someone said about Scott McTominay, a jack of all trades, master of none.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. He's just he does a bit of everything, but he doesn't do any one particular thing to a mastery standpoint. I think the only thing that he does to a mastery standpoint is that he'll run his butt off. And that's about it.
Matthew?
100% agree with Andrew there. Just think he is that very much jack of all trades, master of none striker, and I think he's just really frustrating at times with his decision making. I think he really needs to improve that in order to become, a top player like a lot of us can see him become, no matter what position he plays in.
I think that's fair comments. It is a difficult one when you've got three players that all play in a similar position and they're all very young. Ollie has to try and find a way of accommodating all of them. The only way I can think of doing that is by playing all three of them and just alternating them as the match goes. I mean, it seemed to work for a little while. I think it can work. They just have to be clever with it. And eventually, by doing that, you're going to see one shine above the rest, and then you've got your striker. That's the way I would play it.
And that's the way. That's what's got to come down to. I mean, people talk about wanting competition for Luke Shaw. I'm one of them. This is the definition of competition. For leading the line spot. You've got three guys that can all do it. One of them's got to stand out at some point.
Yeah.
And I will say, to this point in this season, Martial has stood out when he's playing the number 9.
Yes. I think we can all agree on that. I mean, I've been quite vocal about how I feel about Martial over the last 3 years that he's been here, but I've also been quite vocal about how impressed I've been with him this season in the number 9 role, considering I've always maintained that he's not a number 9. A lot of people have said he is, and they're being proven right, and I'm being proven wrong, and I'm happy to be proven wrong as long as he continues along that vein, obviously. One more then from Robin Kenston. With De Gea signing a new contract spanning basically long enough for Ollie's 3-year plan to come to full force, plus 2 years of stability, will fans calm down and be patient with the 3-year plan that the players seem to be on board with? Will the De Gea signing mean the fans will now calm down and be patient? I think is what Robin's asking. For me, the fans are never patient. I'll throw it over to you guys.
I think, a lot of us were sort of saying during the summer, this is going to be a period where, we'll struggle, we'll lose some games, but you know what, it's going to be okay. And after a couple of losses and poor performances, you see Man United Twitter an absolute meltdown.
Yeah,
that's an understatement.
Talking like they've not, seen a loss in their life before. Now, look, don't get me wrong, it's not been a great start to the season, but it's what we expected, or it's what a lot of us said, you know what, this is what it's going to be like. We just have to grit our teeth and hope that we actually seem to see some kind of progression. In regards to the David De Gea signing, I think that just kind of papers over the cracks of what was a really poor transfer window.
Yeah, no, I think that's... Go on, Andrew.
I was just gonna say I completely agree with that. I think the De Gea signing is basically just to kind of like be the cherry on the top to make sure that people know, like, hey, yeah, Dave's saying, yay. But fans are never going to calm down. Like, I mean, you could see it all over the place, and people forget how long. Like, I feel like people just have such short-term memories these days, and it's like they forgot that. Look at how long it took Sir Alex to win a league. Like, it's not an overnight process, and especially with the ownership and GM that we've got in charge. I'm sorry, things aren't going to happen overnight. They're just not. We're going to have to be patient with this process. It's going to take time. And at the end of the day, as long as you can see what the process is and what the project is going forward, I think we have to be happy with it, because that's what we could see right now, is we could see what Ollie's wanting to do. But guys, I'm going to mute myself. I have to take this phone call.
Yeah, that's fine. No problem. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And I think that's a good note to end the show on. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Again, apologies for the issues at the beginning with my microphone. When I thought I was muting it, it's actually the webcam microphone that was being picked up. So I changed that halfway through, and hopefully it got better as we went on. I've actually, whilst we've been talking, I've just had confirmation from Apple Podcasts saying that the show has been approved. So we are now on.
Woo!
Yes, we are now on iTunes again. Obviously, as you will, some of you will know, we had to change the feed. We had to move away from the United Stand, obviously with their new podcast being created. So we are now standalone. It's Talking Manchester United. We're back on iTunes. You can get us on Spotify. We're still on the same YouTube channel. We're on Stitcher. We're on TuneIn and various other apps. We will be on Android very soon as well. Just waiting for a confirmation from Google. That can sometimes take up to a couple of weeks. It's only been a couple of days. Once we're on there, anybody who's on Android, literally whatever podcast app you use, we will be available on that very shortly. So Matthew, thank you for joining me tonight. If you want to just give out your Twitter details.
Sure. Twitter is @_Matthew, so MAFFOO. And also check out offsidegraphics.com as well. I've done a whole bunch of discounts there. I'm coming up to a year in the store, so I'm going to be doing even more discounts on there as well.
100% off everything.
Yeah, not too sure about that one.
Not too sure about that one, Chief.
And Andrew, yourself, thank you for joining midway through the podcast. Better late than never.
I mean, that's the definition of my life. Yeah. At Redbearded Red on Twitter, the Redbearded Red on YouTube. I'm trying to get back to streaming regularly. I was sick for about 3 weeks. It was rough.
Definitely not my fault.
Yeah, definitely didn't get Scottish AIDS from Matthew when he was here. Definitely didn't do that. But it's also hard to stream regularly when you've got an infant daughter that needs a lot of attention.
Of course.
So, yeah, I'm trying to get back to streaming regularly. I think I'm hitting a good point where I'm going to be able to do that. So we'll see if it'll be able to continue. But yeah, check me out on the socials at the very least, guys. I think that I run a quality account.
You do indeed. You do indeed. And links will be in the description. If you're watching on YouTube, in the description below will be links to all of their socials and various stores and things like that. I need to update that actually with the new feed links. So yeah, catch everybody in the description. Again, thanks everyone for listening. We should be back next week, hopefully with a bit more of a more free-flowing podcast. The first one back is always a bit scatty, I think, to say the least. But again, thanks everyone for listening, and thanks to you again, guys, for joining me. Are you both available next Tuesday?
I should be.
Awesome.
Undecided at the moment. It depends on what's going to happen with this job in Texas.
Of course. Okay, well, that's fair enough. Again, thanks everybody. We'll be back next week.